Picture a world where war is worship, where trenches stretch not just across battlefields, but across centuries, where the sound of artillery fire mingles with hymns and the dying whisper prayers that can shatter reality itself. This is not the history you know. This is not the First Crusade, as written in any textbook. This is the story of a single moment, a choice made in darkness beneath the holy city that fractured the world forever. In 1099, victory turned to damnation. Success became the seed of endless horror, and what should have been the end of a war became the beginning of something far worse, a conflict that would consume not just armies, but the very nature of existence itself. What you're about to hear is the complete lore of Trench Crusade, a universe where faith and violence merged into something beautiful and terrible, where technology serves theology, where the dead refuse to rest, and where 8 centuries of war have transformed the earth into something unrecognizable. This is a world where miracles happen every day, and where every single one of them is lethal. Chapter 1. The Breach, 1099 AD. The war did not begin with a declaration. It began with a fracture. In the year 1099, after the successful siege of Jerusalem during the First Crusade, the Knights Templar made a discovery that would damn the world. Beneath the Temple Mount, in vaults older than memory, they found what some scholars believe was one of the holiest of holies, an artifact of immense divine power. But the Templars were not pure of heart. Blinded by greed and with weakness in their souls, they fell to their knees before this relic. They had found a new lord. The artifact spoke to them in whispers of unholy wisdom, and they began trafficking with devils, performing unspeakable rites in the sacred chambers beneath Jerusalem. This was the first heresy. What followed was the act of ultimate heresy, the opening of the gates of hell itself. Jerusalem became a wound in reality, a depraved pit where hell bled into the mortal plane. The armies of the church retreated as the holy city transformed into something unspeakable. The world shattered, not just in geography, but in meaning itself. Time fractured, chronologies collapsed, the stars twisted into unfamiliar constellations. This was not conquest, this was ontological collapse, a breach in the skin of reality that would never heal. The First Crusade became the only crusade, and it never ended. Chapter 2. The war unfolds, 1101 to 1300. From the broken city, the breach spread like a contagion of paradox. Geography itself recoiled. The land became sacred, terribly, dangerously sacred. Just 2 years after the gates opened, in 1101, came the year of 3 battles. The heretics, both fallen men and demons, spent this time conquering most of the Levant. The ancient city of Antioch was fortified and became the central point of resistance for the church and mankind. 8 years later, 17 brave martyrs attempted the impossible. They traveled into the earthly domains of hell itself, seeking to convert the heretics back to the faith. They were captured and are now kept within hot white brazen bowls, suffering for eternity. Their rescue remains impossible. The 13th century brought the wars of Triclavianism, internal conflicts within the church that allowed heretic forces to expand their territory. Millions died as theological disputes literally reshaped battlefields. These wars concerned whether Christ was crucified with 3 or 4 nails, but even such minute doctrinal differences became matters of life and death in this transformed world. Then, in 1347, Beelzebub unleashed his most terrible weapon, the Black Grail. This plague turned tens of millions into metastasized vessels, beings whose bodies erupted with tumors and boils, while their minds remained intact to experience every moment of agony. Unlike ordinary disease, the Black Grail could reanimate its victims, creating undead soldiers for Hell's armies. The corpse wars had begun, and they would rage for nearly a century. Chapter 3. The Tide of Darkness, 1429 to 1666. Hope came in 1429, when Saint Joan of Arc, armed with faith and holy fire, drove the Black Grail from mainland Europe, but this victory was temporary. In 1545, tragedy struck the faithful. The great resistance city of Antioch was destroyed entirely by an infernal weapon of unknown origin. From its ashes rose new Antioch, the fortress city that would become the sword and shield of all Christendom. The year 1666 brought the year of 6 woes. The newly crafted Heretic naval fleet captured Gibraltar, transforming it into their central base of operations against all of Europe. Hell now had access to the Atlantic. In response, England began construction of the mysterious fortress of the White Cliffs. The next 2 centuries saw Hell's forces gain unprecedented ground. They destroyed England's fleet in the Battle of the Bloodied Cliffs in 1805, slaying Admiral Nelson in combat. They constructed the world's first submarines in 1866, using them to create global famine through the destruction of merchant navies. All of this culminated in 1894, the year of Broken Trinity. In coordinated strikes, the death commandos of Hell simultaneously assassinated the Supreme Pontiff, the High Prophetess Aliyah, and the Holy Roman Emperor. The faithful were thrown into chaos. Chapter 4. The World of 1914. Yet the Church endured by launching a space program in 1899, constructing the moving fortress of Britannia in 1907, and fighting heretics to a stalemate at the Battle of Cordoba in 1910. They prevented Hell from reaching the heartlands of Hispania. Now, in the year of our Lord, 1914, the world bears little resemblance to what it once was. This is not our 1914. The world still turns, but its axis is cracked. Time is no longer measurement, it is conviction. Geography obeys faith rather than physics. There are regions where the sun never sets through devotion alone. Rivers flow with consecrated oil. Mountains crack open to reveal altars where hearts once beat. The trenches came not as tactics, but as theology, carved into earth, sky, and stone. They have become sacred wounds in the land, spiraling outward in every direction. Some stretch upward like ladders to heaven, others tunnel beneath cathedrals, down into realms where sermons are screamed backward. Technology has evolved along impossible paths. The faithful can create steel alloys imbued with divine radiance, while heretic legions wield metals from Tartarus's infernal forges. These cursed weapons inflict searing damage on both body and soul, creating wounds that never heal. Nations have collapsed, only faiths remain. Communication happens through radio relics that broadcast only psalms. Weather has turned spiritual. Rains deliver baptism or plague, depending on which banners are raised. The sky is contested by Zeppelin cathedrals, dropping relics and blessings as often as fire. Most of the world is trench line now, spiraling, looping, digging into itself, fracturing logic. The lines do not divide nations, they divide convictions. Chapter 5. The Principality of New Antioch. Standing for over 300 years since Antioch's destruction, New Antioch serves as the first line of defense against Hell's legions. This fortress city emerged from the 1559 Sword Congress of Vienna, where all faithful nations agreed to rebuild and fortify the ancient stronghold. Within the city's techno-laboratories, the church works to create superhuman disciples called Communicants, using the cloned flesh and blood of Christ through the Meta-Christ program. These enhanced warriors consume sacred communion that grants them extraordinary size and miraculous healing abilities. The city functions under the governance of the Office of the Propagation of Virtue. While lenient towards soldiers, they ruthlessly prosecute any infraction of church doctrine. Weekly executions of heretics have become grand public spectacles that draw immense crowds. Duke Constantine currently holds the title of Duke of New Antioch, serving as nominal supreme commander of all faithful forces, though international troops often fight under their own leaders. Among New Antioch's most elite warriors are the Observer's warrior monks, who spend their lives in absolute solitude within the Temple of the Word. They wear oculus helmets that allow them to hear the voice of God, granting limited perception of past, present, and future simultaneously. However, the divine echo never stops, forcing them to rely on powerful sedatives to function. Their words carry divine authority, compelling obedience from both allies and enemies. Even more legendary are the Paladins, created through the Meta-Christ program to undertake missions within Hell itself. Originally 12 in number, only 9 survive today. 2 have perished in battle, and rumors suggest one may have turned traitor. Each of Hell's 9 circles requires specialized armor, and when a Paladin enters Hell, they face the grim reality of succeeding alone or dying alone. The backbone of New Antioch's army consists of yeomen, brave men, and women who've undergone basic training and pledged allegiance to the Duke. The assault troops excel in breaching enemy defenses with swift, aggressive attacks. Combat engineers focus on demolishing bunkers and constructing battlefield positions, accepting high casualty rates as privilege. Heavy mechanized troopers undergo substantial chemical enhancements to handle the company's heaviest weaponry. The Sisters of St. Cosmas provide advanced medical support on the front lines, equipped with combat surgical knives that also serve as tools of mercy for the dying. New Antioch's reach extends beyond its walls through allied forces. The Papal States answer directly to the Supreme Pontiff, hunting high-profile heretic leaders and recovering spiritually significant artifacts. Warriors of air have become experts in guerrilla warfare after enduring centuries of heretic invasions. Prussian shock troopers from Europe's only democratic nation represent the elite of the elite, swearing the oath, to each his own, to me death. Chapter 6. The Heretic Legions. A third of humanity has bowed to the idols of hell. The Heretic Legions represent Satan's primary earthly military force, composed of those condemned souls who have witnessed the golden calf and offered themselves in violent sacrificial rituals. Their cities are monuments to blasphemy, towering structures of iron and black stone that stretch down into deep pits containing sacrificial altars. Captives endure prolonged suffering over days and weeks. Majestic cathedrals dedicated to the princes of hell rise on massive volcanic arches, while the condemned hang from inverted crosses. To join the army of damnation requires a pilgrimage to the gates of hell itself. From great distances, the intense fiery heat radiating from this structure scorches both body and soul. Those who reach hell's vicinity are deemed worthy and admitted to the legions, pledging unyielding oaths that bind them to darkness forever. Heretic troopers form the majority of hell's army, those who have seen the gates and survived, damning themselves for eternity. The anointed are heavily armored assault troops, whose skin bears scorch marks from ritual journeys to hell and back. Some push beyond the gates entirely, their flesh igniting in flames that never heal. These darker souls gain the strength to wield weapons impossible for ordinary men. Warwolves are assault beasts, designed to charge through barbed wire, their heads built to slice through obstacles effortlessly. Artillery witches roam battlefields, launching munitions created in hell's death factories. They are entirely silent, their faces never seen, summoning endless supplies of infernal bombs through self-conjured portals. Most feared are the Death Commandos, hell's elite assassins. From young ages, chosen heretic youths are sent beyond hell's gates for training in the seventh circle of the Inferno. They receive instruction from history's most notorious killers trapped in hell and learn martial skills from Archdevil Beleth's elite guards. Their claws are drenched in lethal poison from the river Styx. At training's conclusion, their tongues are ceremonially removed, forcing them to communicate through cryptic hand signals. Among the most notorious are Cain, the first murderer, Barabbas, whom the crowd chose over Christ, and Haman, who attempted genocide against the Persian Jews. These three executed the coordinated assassinations of 1894 that threw the church into chaos. Heretic priests lead war bands, wielding dark magic and invoking demons through goetic spells, bound to demon lords in hell. Their profane gospels instill such fear they can cause physical damage to the faithful. The heretic fleet operates as a semi-autonomous force, maintaining marine infantry that penetrate deep into enemy territory for hit-and-run missions. They constantly search for captives, intelligence, supplies, and opportunities to showcase cruelty. Most fascinating are the trench ghosts, the result of heretic troopers dying on sacred ground or near untainted holy relics. This traps them between realms, belonging to neither heaven nor hell. These undead attack both faithful and heretics alike, following orders no living being can hear. Their gas masks serve no purpose anymore, as their bodies and minds are condemned to endure war's horrors forever. Chapter 7. The Trench Pilgrims. As the faithful wage war against hell's forces, some individuals find themselves touched by heaven itself. Gifted with visions and revelations, these pilgrims form disorganized processions containing the deranged and wounded, the divinely touched and guilt-ridden. Most pilgrims have little military training, but once they don the iron capioti of a trench pilgrim, they can confront even the most fearsome demons. Death doesn't always end their mission. Most occasionally the seventh Metachrist judges fallen pilgrims worthy and resurrects them as martyr penitents, beings existing between heaven and earth who fight without feeling pain. Each procession maintains unique characteristics. The path of pious revenge, dedicated to Saint Olga, employs flamethrowers, incendiary grenades, and burning ammunition. The pilgrims of the Iron Path, following Saint Rita of Cassia, arm themselves with hammers, mauls, and maces, driving nails into their own heads to honor their saint. The Theban Legion of Rome, devoted to Saint Maurice, engages in combat with swords and blades. War prophets lead through visions of Armageddon, their sermons motivating pilgrims to move between battlefields seeking martyrdom through combat. Castigators serve as officers of orthodoxy, ensuring soldiers remain righteous while disciplining those who stray. Communicants have ingested Metachrist flesh and blood, causing them to increase in size with miraculous healing abilities. Though blinded, their vision is enhanced, with blessed crosses nailed through their eyes. They serve as line breakers and protectors for prophets and castigators. Ecclesiastic prisoners are either captured foes or volunteer sinners who advance through the Great War, hoping their sacrificial charge will purify their souls. They carry explosive devices for martyrdom, though some survive and continue fighting. Stigmatic nuns bear wounds identical to the third Metachrist they revere. Their devotion to suffering transforms wounds into sources of superhuman power, allowing them to venture across no man's land without fear. Most impressive are the shrine anchorites, massive suits of armor, powered by diesel and faith, standing 12-15 feet tall. Inside, the armor is lined with spikes and barbed hooks, keeping the monk pilot in continual suffering to mirror their lord's pain. The exterior displays religious icons, sacred relics, and prayer scrolls. Hundreds were created under Saint Methodius's supervision, but the knowledge was lost when death commandos destroyed the monastery. Each wields an adamantine, Catherine wheel and bonebreaker mace. As acts of devotion, trench pilgrims, or stigmatic nuns, are often broken by the wheel and spend their final battle mounted upon it, believing this provides spiritual protection. Specialized processions include the Sacred Affliction, which excels in close-quarters combat, carrying millstones to bind around sinners' necks before submerging them in no man's land. The Cavalcade of the 10th Plague sacrifices lambs before battle, using their blood for anointing as protection against divine wrath, while rejecting new doctrines introduced by the Metachrist. Chapter 8. The Cult of the Black Grail. Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies, operates differently from other hell lords who work primarily through mortal agents. When he rises to dominance among the archfiends, he unleashes his most lethal curse, the Black Grail. The Black Grail harbors relentless enmity toward all living things, infecting biological material and causing it to erupt with tumors and boils. It annihilates the body while leaving the mind intact to endure agony. Despite intense efforts by church scientist priests and Sultanate alchemists, no cure exists beyond incinerating infected settlements with specially designed flamethrower tanks using consecrated oil. Without incineration, infected bodies rise again, driven by demonic force, to carry out Beelzebub's will, forming warbands to seek and infect other life forms, while collecting gruesome trophies for Beelzebub's idols. Leading these warbands are Knights of the Order of the Fly Degenerate, individuals who willingly accept the Black Grail. Those deemed adequate by Beelzebub receive weapons, armor, and gear tainted by the archfiend's influence. Heralds are transformed into grotesque winged insects through fusion with hellflies. This agonizing transformation renders them scouts for the Order, their wing buzz instilling terror and eroding enemy concentration. They wield ancient weapons teeming with demonic worms that spread disease through tainted bullets. Plague Knights rise through the Order by transforming as many living beings as possible, increasing their rank and earning Beelzebub's favor. The most renowned number, exactly 12, mocking the Church's paladins. They live in Ecbatan Beelzebub, a horrifying city even heretic lords avoid. Lords of Tumors are high-ranking officials who spread decay to allies and enemies alike, entering trance states to communicate with the Lord of Flies and channel the Seventh Circle's power. The Corpse Guards serve as elite bodyguards to Black Grail nobility, composed of the most resilient human followers who survived the Grail's blessings. The infected masses include Grail thralls, vast armies of hollow infected beings, doomed to serve forever, suffering from numerous supernatural afflictions. Hounds of the Black Grail are decayed canine carcasses infested with maggots and flies, roaming no man's land to spread disease. Amalgams are huge masses composed of dozens of infected fallen warriors, insects, mammals, and other creatures, moving across battlefields like immense bloated heaps of disease. Chapter 9. The Iron Sultanate. Following Hell's Breach, a summons was issued to those of Islamic faith, leading to a mass migration across Europa, Asia, and Africa. Millions died along the way as heretics attacked like locusts, devouring them and constructing monuments from their remains, preventing proper burial as prescribed in holy texts. The survivors established the Great Sultanate of the invincible iron wall of the two horns that pierce the sky. Despite ongoing conflict defending the walls that creates new martyrs daily, the Sultanate thrives within. From mosques of white marble and gold, muezzins summon the faithful to pray for the Sultan's army's success. Though allied with the Church against Hell's armies, the Sultanate harbors profound resentment toward the infidels who unleashed Gog and Magog upon the world. Uzbashi lead military expeditions beyond the Iron Wall, chosen on merit rather than family background, often promoted from the Janissary Corps. Enhanced through Jabrian alchemical arts and mystic conditioning, they face enemies fearlessly, their mental hardening making them indifferent to pain and ruthless in battle. They're equipped with exceptional meteoric iron armor, silver-gilded carbines with alchemical ammunition, and Kiliji swords inscribed with golden calligraphy. Alchemists are mystical practitioners trained in the House of Wisdom, with admission open to anyone with necessary will and intellect regardless of gender. After 7 years of rigorous study, aspirants face 3 trials: crafting armor adorned with Solomon's seals, creating a Taquin servant, a homunculus with artificial life and intelligence, and opening the third eye for cosmic insight and elemental perception. Failure at any stage brings horrific consequences. Janissaries are elite warriors composed of youth captured during raids, undergoing stringent military and spiritual training. Their minds are subtly controlled through spiritual and alchemical methods, ensuring absolute loyalty to the Sultan. Physical traits are enhanced by mystical Jabrian potions, and they wear elaborate armor from special alchemist-derived metal formulas. Through Jabrian tolling techniques, alchemists generate artificial life, crafting the Lions of Jabia, each a unique creation, serving as the Sultanate's frontline force. The Sultan himself is protected by 77 colossal Lions of Jabia, their speed and ferocity nearly unparalleled. Many possess unusual abilities from alchemical origins and wear armor fused into their flesh. The Brazen Bull represents living field artillery commissioned by Sultan Bayezid III, created after centuries of experimentation. These powerful war creatures carry heavy artillery like flame cannons and volley guns. Covered in intricately adorned bronze armor with protective talismans, they serve as unstoppable forces leading Sultanate advances. The Sultanate assassins operate under a pact with the assassin fortress of Alamut. These legendary mystic warriors manipulate space and time through sacred rituals and potent hallucinogens, appearing in multiple places at once and striking with incredible speed. Enhanced through powerful chemicals, they become significantly taller, faster, and stronger than ordinary men. They prefer poison blades crafted in alamut, coated with the milk of manat, supreme poison, guaranteeing death upon contact with unprotected skin. Young assassins are raised on bitter, toxin-rich diets, increasing poison tolerance. Their blood creates poisonous iron, forged into deadly enchanted blades. Azabs serve as light infantry drawn from one household in 20 across the Sultanate's provinces. They defend the Iron Wall against heretic attacks and volunteer for elite missions beyond the wall, drawn by promises of fame and loot. They carry varied weaponry, including jezzails with distinctive curved stocks. Despite high casualty rates and harsh trench conditions, new recruits eagerly enlist for chances to serve the Sultan and return with glory. Sultan sappers operate the Iron Wall's cannons, often marked by severe burns from their powerful artillery's tendency to overheat. Many have perished manning their guns, succumbing to intense heat and smoke. Chapter 10. The Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent. The court's hierarchy exists in constant flux, with only Mammon maintaining near-continuous control over the position of greed throughout the Great War. Other positions have been filled by a dizzying array of high-ranking, infernal nobles, each rising and falling in power through chaotic cycles, mirroring shifts among their mortal followers. The War Council operates by majority vote with razor-thin margins. Ambitious princes and princesses of Hell scheme against serpent heads, eager to usurp power and prestige. Once fallen, they must start from the bottom, tormented by rivals' mockery. Demon Lord's strength fluctuates based on corrupted mortal followers, leading to constant shifts in crown wearers. Though Beelzebub is the most powerful devil of gluttony, he rejects his rightful court place, waging war through the Black Grail instead, leaving his hungry throne vacant for lesser demons to claim. At the court's command, Hell's warbands assemble at the Hellgate and march forth to ravage the mortal world. Yoke fiends rally under commanders' banners alongside Hell Knights, broken forms bound in armor, rising from fiery tombs where they kept crushed beneath massive basalt slabs when not battling. Pit locusts lead charges with clattering wings, announcing the court's arrival through venomous stings, leaving unhealable wounds. Occasionally, when ominous signs align in Hell's sky, a hunter of the left-hand path joins warbands, marking missions with dread and honor, accompanied by eerie triumphant music. The wretched are human slave soldiers without demon blood, used as disposable shock troops, or tortured to fuel court sorcerers' dark magic, captured during hunts or sold in heretic domains. Their minds are shattered by witnessed damnation horrors. If a wretch defeats a powerful opponent, Hell's law grants them freedom, remembering the first rebellion when angel blood stained the sky. Many court warriors possess goetic spells, Aeneas abilities harnessing mortal suffering as spiritual energy to unleash reality-altering demonic powers. As God's universal plan is disrupted and twisted, infernal sorcerers and demonic beings tap primordial energy released from creation to warp reality. However, demons must act swiftly before God's omnipotence reasserts itself, creating constant, escalating needs for human sacrifices, pain, and unrelenting warfare. Predators are demonic commanders and magistrates, overseeing small portions of powerful archdevils' domains. Sorcerers take many forms, altering bodies to enhance spellcasting ability. Their feet don't touch ground, floating across no man's land, while chanting hell's cruel gospel. Hunters devoted to the left-hand path roam hell's primordial wilds, hunting fearsome beasts while practicing dark magic and divination. Yoke fiends stand 7, 8 feet tall, with bodies of trembling fat and muscle, branded by masters and carved by hell priests, marking them as greater demons' property. They possess bestial traits like cattle or goat horns and hooves, ape-like limbs with dense bones. They loathe seeing their reflections, knowing deep down the beauty and glory they've lost. Pit locusts are horrifying, horse-sized, winged and armored creatures with grotesque human-like faces, fighting using razor-sharp limb blades and venomous stingers. Chapter 11. The Nature of War. This is not a war of conquest. It is not a war that can be won. The Trench Crusade is a ritual, a prayer with bayonets, a theology of attrition. Battles are not measured in ground gained, but in doctrine affirmed, scripture fulfilled, heresies crushed beneath blessed treads. There is no high command, no master strategy. Orders arrive as revelations, sometimes weeks late, sometimes written in blood on helmet, undersides. An offensive begins with bells. Mortars ring like cathedral chimes. Priests scream blessings into wind. Then come processions, soldiers bearing relics, chanting under breath, firing rifles in time with hymns. The front advances, not through tactics, but through devotion. Retreat is not failure. It is penitence. Soldiers fall back, reciting confessionals. Trenches are renamed after martyrs. Loss is folded into faith. Stalemates become scripture. There are fronts where nothing moves for decades, yet the faithful remain, tending altars in bunkers, scraping mud from icons, memorizing every crater, not to win, but because war has made the place holy. To alter such sites would be sacrilege. In this war, there is no distinction between weapon and relic. Every trigger is a prayer. Every bayonet is a blessing. Faith is not merely what powers the war, it is the ammunition. Guns are inscribed with scripture. Bullets are dipped in sacred oils, stamped with verses from dead languages. Each shot carries belief fragments, doctrine shards sharpened by repetition and recoil. Some weapons jam not from mud, but from doubt. Rifles refuse to fire on those deemed too holy to kill. The rifles of New Antioch are long and baroque, etched with martyr histories and communion rites. Many are older than their carriers, passed down like heirlooms, mechanisms wrapped in rosaries and bone. These are relics that bleed when dishonored. Some snipers fire only once daily, their specific saint death moments, believing martyrdom alignment lends bullets divine guidance. Their scopes are fashioned from old reliquaries, stocks padded with torn forbidden gospel pages. Shrine anchorites wield weapons on different scales entirely, cannons firing relic shells, incendiary hymn launchers, siege fists wrapped in prayer cloth. Each mech is a cathedral of death, its arsenal a sermon in steel. Heretic cults favor less stable but equally sacred devices, guns that scream when fired, mortars praying in broken tongues as they arc through air, knives forged from melted reliquaries, pistols shooting only if wielders recite correct heresies. Grenades have evolved into rituals of destruction. Some release incense that blinds with revelation. Others detonate into choirs of dissonant song, flaying faithful and false with equal fervor. A few don't explode at all, instead imposing silence so total that those within forget how to speak or pray. Trench pilgrims can acquire holy hand grenades of Antioch, grenades made from the church bells of the original Antioch. There are sanctified charges that carve sigils into ground upon detonation, transforming terrain into temporary cathedrals. Others fracture language itself, leaving survivors unable to form coherent doctrine. Chapter 12. Time and space distorted. Time itself has been conscripted. There are offensives waged entirely within single hours, repeated endlessly. Whole trench networks loop back to their beginnings. Chaplains preach to generations long dead, and are answered. Tactical clocks run backward. Some who fled Jerusalem found themselves arriving in 1302. Others emerged in 1881's smog-choked dawn. Entire divisions vanish into fog and reappear centuries later without knowing they were gone. Veterans have fought for 3 days and 300 years simultaneously. Weather has turned spiritual. Rains deliver baptism or plague, depending on raised banners. Fog has gained intelligence, reciting forgotten verses or leading soldiers astray. Thunder is indistinguishable from cannon fire. Lightning targets only the faithless. Snow sometimes falls upward. Sunlight bends to highlight martyrs. In one confirmed case, an entire regiment went blind during sunrise as the light resolved into the shape of a saint, burned into their vision. They now serve as blind seers, advising artillery with uncanny precision. Radio relics broadcast only psalms. Messages are sent by flag, drum, or bleeding parchment. One notable sect preaches from a radio tower that never existed on any map, broadcasting sermons spliced with screams from an unknown location. Zeppelins, the size of cathedrals, float over the front, dropping relics and blessings as often as fire. Some are powered by saints, others by heresy. A remnant airship called the Ascension has circled the same trench for 30 years, never landing, broadcasting the same sermon loop hourly. The oceans are not safe. Pilgrimage fleets patrol sacred currents. Submarines, shaped like coffins, hunt beneath relic-laden waters. Entire naval battles are waged over fragments of scripture lost at sea. Chapter 13. The Geography of Faith. The world itself has been transformed by 8 centuries of sacred warfare. Maps are no longer tools. They are scripture. They bleed when burned. They scream when misread. Cartographers are theologians, and borders are interpretations. In Vienna, the cathedral has consumed the entire district, its towers spiraling beyond sight, echoing hymns predating recorded history. Entry requires 7 confirmed relics. No one who has reached the altar has ever returned. The Zone of Thorns represents a region where faith mutates into bramble, and prayer becomes indistinguishable from pain. Novum Judea operates under different creeds each hour, requiring proper recitation to avoid being rewritten. Some valleys speak in tongues. There are regions where no lie can be told, and deserts where only blasphemy can be heard. Language no longer serves man. It serves meaning, and meaning is dangerous now. Gibraltar has become the heretic fleet's central base of operations, captured during the Year of 6 Woes, giving hell access to the Atlantic. The Golden Gardens of Damascus house the great alchemists of the Sultanate, where Gibrian Tolwyn techniques create artificial life through forbidden books of Solomon's study. Alamet serves as the assassin fortress, where the old man of the mountain rules through dreams rather than direct communication. For die warbands undertake covert operations with purposes remaining unknown. The trenches themselves are not mere military fortifications. They are sacred wounds in the land. Some stretch upward, like ladders to heaven. Others tunnel beneath cathedrals, into realms where sermons are screamed backward. To move through these trenches is to move through belief itself. Walls whisper forgotten verses. Muck clings not just to flesh, but to memory. There are trenches that loop back into themselves, where the dying see themselves marching behind. Some go down forever. Others lead to places that once were. Chapter 14. The Saints and the Damned. There are no ordinary soldiers in the Trench Crusade. There are only saints, heretics, ghosts, and those on the cusp of becoming something worse. The Trench Saints are legends made flesh. Some were martyrs of the early crusade, sanctified by blood and fire, who refused to die properly. Others were raised from relic dust, stitched into sacrament by the faithful. They are walking contradictions, neither living nor dead, but continuously bleeding significance. Where they pass, mud clots into holy symbols, blown seal, or split, depending on belief. The ground remembers their footsteps. Most do not speak. Some hum hymns through scorched throats. A few simply radiate pain and benediction in equal measure. One saint is said to float inches above the mire, her robes soaked in blood that never dries. Another is mounted within a bell tower strapped to his spine, tolling judgment with every step. Some saints are worshipped by their own regiments. Others are chained, feared even by their allies. The heresiarchs represent the mutated and corrupted form of the original Knights Templar who opened Hell's Gates 8 centuries ago. The heresiarch described in ancient texts is a titanic monstrosity with no face, horned shoulders, 4 breasts, and a cloak melded to its flesh. Its clawed hand clutches an enormous sickle as levitating stone tablets wreathed in lightning surround its infernal frame. The undead are not monsters. They are memories that refuse to decay. Entire battalions have become ghosts. Not spirits of the dead, but echoes so soaked in belief they achieved permanence. Some appear only at dusk, marching silently through cratered fields. Others fight alongside the living, their forms semi-corporeal, their rifles relics of forgotten wars. They do not sleep. They do not bleed, they persist. There are also those not quite dead, but no longer alive. Soldiers held together by rosaries, prayer wire, and hope. Skeletons animated by unfinished psalms. Zealots whose bodies rot as their faith intensifies. In some regions, mausoleums are fortified. Graves rearm their occupants. Entire offensives have been led by chaplains, shouting rites into mass graves, summoning the doctrinal dead to rise and continue the liturgy of war. Chapter 15. The Technology of Faith. In this world transformed by belief, technology has evolved along impossible paths. The devoted followers of Saint Eligius, patron saint of metalworkers, have enabled the Holy See's weaponsmiths to create steel alloys imbued with divine radiance, metals more durable than standard steel. Meanwhile, heretic legions harness metals from Tartarus's infernal forges, which surpass ordinary steel in strength but exact a dire price. Wielding such weapons or donning these cursed armors inflicts searing damage on both body and soul, resulting in perpetually festering wounds that never heal. Perhaps the most significant achievement is the Metachrist program, the Church's method of creating superhuman warriors through cloned flesh and blood of Christ. Communicants who consume this sacred communion experience increase size and miraculous healing abilities. The program has produced multiple Meta-Christs, with the third Meta-Christ being particularly revered by stigmatic nuns who bear wounds identical to those of crucifixion. The seventh Meta-Christ serves as judge for fallen pilgrims, occasionally resurrecting them as martyr penitents. This technology blurs the line between science and miracle, representing the war's fundamental nature, where faith and technology have become indistinguishable. Mobile fortresses like Britannia, constructed in 1907, represent massive cathedral ships capable of independent operation across transformed landscapes. The Church Space Program, launched successfully in 1899, represents humanity's attempt to take the war beyond terrestrial boundaries, though its specific nature remains shrouded in mystery. Chapter 16. The Prophecies and the End. The war is not moving toward conclusion. It is becoming more itself. Each battle affirms its eternal nature. Each death validates its necessity. The Trench Crusade has achieved what no other conflict has managed. It has made war into a natural law. In this timeline, the Bible has been extensively rewritten into the New Orthodox Syncretic Bible, with additions of new books such as Novae Revelations, the Battle Psalms, Cataclysms, and Divinations. The verses read like the grimmest and bloodiest parts of the Old Testament amplified, exhorting the faithful to war and offering predictions of death, destruction, and suffering. The Synod of Strategic Prophecy operates as a divine intelligence service, with observers attuned to God's voice, providing strategic guidance through their perception of past, present, and future simultaneously. Their helmets enhance the Holy Word's power, compelling obedience from any creature, if only briefly. Yet even divine intervention comes with terrible costs. No one is truly free of sin, so the holy forces heaven can channel kill without distinction. Even mortals channeling God's wrath can set anyone ablaze in holy flames, including allies who get too close. It has been stated that if an actual angel were to manifest on a battlefield, absolutely nothing would survive. The angels maintain this restraint because mere proximity to the gate of hell is fatal for all but the paladins, and divine intervention could potentially end the world by escalating the Great War's scale. Chapter 17. The Eternal Present. This is the world of 1914, but it is not our 1914. It is every 1914 that ever was or could be, collapsed into a single moment of infinite war. There are no civilians. Everyone is a combatant in the war of meaning. Children are born knowing which saints to pray to for protection from specific demons. Farmers plant crops in formation, creating living prayers visible from the air. Merchants trade in relics and ammunition with equal reverence. The war has seeped into every aspect of existence. Marriage ceremonies include vows to fight together in the trenches. Funeral rites focus on ensuring the dead will join the appropriate eternal army. Birthday celebrations become recruitment drives for specialized orders. Victory in the Trench Crusade is not measured in territory held or enemies defeated. It is measured in faith sustained, doctrine purified, belief made manifest. A successful offensive might gain no ground, but succeed in transforming a heretical shrine into a place of orthodox worship. Some battles are won by prayer alone. Others are lost, despite overwhelming military superiority, because the troops' faith wavered at a crucial moment. There are documented cases of entire armies routing because they glimpsed their enemies' religious icons and experienced sudden conversions. The front lines shift constantly, but never truly move, like a vast theological equation being worked out in blood and iron. Each faction's advances are balanced by others' gains. This is not accident. This is design. The war exists in perfect balance because each side provides what the others need to exist. The faithful require heretics to define themselves against. The heretics need the faithful to corrupt and transform. The undead serve as neutral arbiters, attacking all sides equally. There are whispers of offensives that never ended, units that charged and never returned, still believed advancing through forgotten dimensions of trench and thought. Some say the war is sentient, others say it's divine. In one forgotten theater, a division has stood in formation for 97 years, unmoving, eyes closed, rifles upright, awaiting a signal arriving only when the moon weeps blood. Local cults bring offerings and copy their stances. No one remembers their orders, but still they wait. Even ceasefires are rituals agreed upon through mirrored dreams, declared by apparitions, broken mid-prayer as heresies shift. In rare silence moments, rival faction soldiers have shared rites, only resuming combat once relic radiance fades. Some scholars believe the war has achieved a kind of divine equilibrium, a state where all possible outcomes exist simultaneously, creating a stable infinity of conflict. What is the point of a war that cannot end? What is the purpose of a conflict that has consumed the world? Perhaps there is no point. Perhaps the Trench Crusade exists because meaning itself was broken in that moment when the Knights Templar opened the gates beneath Jerusalem. Perhaps we are witnessing not a war, but the death throes of comprehensibility. Or perhaps this is what war really is, stripped of justification and politics and strategy. Perhaps the Trench Crusade shows us conflict in its purest form as an expression of the fundamental incompatibilities that exist between different ways of understanding existence. There was a time before the war, but no one remembers it clearly, not even the saints. Some say the Trench Crusade began with Jerusalem's fall in 1099. Others believe it was always here, hidden beneath history's skin, waiting for the wound to open. Maybe the war created time. Maybe time is just the war remembering itself. There are scriptures implying the first bullet was also the first spoken word. Others claim God's silence birthed the first trench. There is no end. There is only belief, sustained, mutated, weaponized. Doctrine does not evolve. It festers. Theologies do not collapse. They metastasize. War has become the liturgy, its rituals performed with bayonet and rosary alike. Some regiments pray to be forgotten, believing anonymity is salvation's only path. Others tattoo holy offensive maps onto their flesh, believing skin remembers what souls cannot. There are songs sung backward to undo sins, sermons written in disappearing ink revealing themselves only under fire. The Trench Crusade does not want to be understood. It does not teach. It does not justify. It only expands. Faith is not a path to meaning. It is a maze with no exits. Meaning is slippery here. Some saints were fabricated and became real through worship. Some heresies were true until too many believed them. Truth in this world is a vector of faith, a thing with mass, a thing that can kill you. There are miracles that only occur once per doctrine, martyrs that burn forever but never die, weapons that erase names from the book of time. Some say the world already ended, and we are the echo that refused to fade. Others claim the world has not yet begun, and the war is merely its birth pangs. And yet, there is beauty in this endless horror. Soldiers still sing before they charge. Medics still heal enemies alongside allies. Chaplains still offer last rites to those who have fought against their faith for decades. Perhaps the true miracle of the Trench Crusade is not that it began, but that compassion survives within it. That in a world where every action is warfare, some warriors still choose mercy when they could choose violence. In the mud and blood and sacred gunpowder, something essentially human persists, something that wars and ideologies and even divine intervention cannot quite eliminate. In the Trench Crusade, every bullet is a theological argument. Every death is a doctrinal statement. Every trench is a cathedral built to house humanity's need to fight over what cannot be proven but must be believed. The war continues because it has become more real than the reality it replaced. It has achieved what every ideology dreams of: Knights, total victory over the very concept of alternatives. There are no peace negotiations because peace is no longer a comprehensible concept. There are no war aims because the war has become its own aim. There are no ending conditions because ending is heretical to the war's nature. The trenches are eternal. The war is endless. The meaning is broken. And still, they march forward. Still, they believe. Still, they fight. This is Trench Crusade, a war without beginning or end, a world where faith and violence have become indistinguishable, a universe where every prayer is a bullet and every bullet is a prayer. Welcome to the front. It has been waiting for you.